Hey guys, it's watercolor day. It's face day. I've got it sketched up on a 300-pound arch watercolor paper. That's what we're doing. Should be a challenge, should be fun. Hey, I'm Rusty Nelson, your college art professor. Let's get going. All right, so here's the setup. I have did a 15-minute sketch like I did on my demo I did a couple weeks ago. Real quick, the difference being this has a lot more tooth and is a little more difficult to draw anything with a lot of detail on it. Not that you need a lot of detail at this point on the sketch that we're going to be using for the watercolor. That is my reference up there, the pretty girl with a nice highlight through her face. She's got the nice Rembrandt triangle on her cheek right there. And the bob, again, I chose this mainly because the shape of the head, I was able to draw it without using a lot of Loomis method. Cat kind of had it in mind and broke it apart, but it was all really through drawing it through shapes and just general relative positioning. So it takes a little more practice, but once you kind of understand your Loomis method structures, your Riley methods, your Asaro methods and stuff, you can pretty much do that without relying heavily on a lot of sketching of the underneath structures. So, all right, let's get started and let's see how this goes. All right, I'm going to come in. I'm going to kind of establish some of the background colors and let some of that bleed into the hair areas and stuff. Just essentially to create a nice underpainting, some undercolors that we're going to work with. And then when I get onto the face, I'm going to keep it kind of a yellowish rose right up in through this area and predominantly throughout the face. But while it's very wet, I'm going to be introducing more reds, blues, and purples into the shadows and the highlights and stuff. So that'll be our base painting and we'll get started with it that way. So, all right, so I'm going to get some of this Viridian, and I'm going to mix in some of the yellow ochre and a little more of this. I think that's raw umber right there. It's a pretty good sized puddle. Has some fairly good saturation to it. So it's about the right color. And then I'm also going to get a little more of a blue down here. All right, there we go. All right, so two different greens that we'll be able to work with. I just use the mop to mix up the colors all. So I'm going to use my 3/4 inch flat right here, and I'll lay in the color for the background. I'm going to keep a nice irregular shape to it. I'm not painting to the edge, so all right, there we go. Just come in and we'll just come in and wrap around the head. There we go. I'm going to switch colors a little bit just to get a little more densities and color variations in here. I'm going to come around a little bit on this and create some hair strands. Good. Come up. Get a little more color going here. Good. All right. There we go. I'm just going to get an irregular edge down along here and right along that right there. Cool. And we'll just follow her shoulder right around right there. That looks good. The first one always dries lighter than you expect, so I don't mind the peekaboos. I want to get a little more of that dense color. I want to come up here. And this is that arch paper, so it's going to stay wet for a while. All right, and I'm going to go back to my green. Throw a little more of that in there. And as we get around here, I want to just throw a few. There we go. There we go. There we go. I just want some of those broken edges. I'm going to thin it out now. So I'm going to just introduce some water into it. It's going to make a lighter transition into the color. Get a little more of it. Come down, right down here. We'll bounce in like right there. And then come across. And then there's a little peekaboo of the color right in there. There we go. All right, so we got a nice color there happening. We'll pull it down and we're going to fake that highlight. We'll just pull it across like that. Pull this down like that, and we'll keep that nice sharp edge. Cool. We already have the color blocked on the background, and all I'm going to do is just throw a little bit of a soft greenish cast right into this edge right over here, right on this back side, and on this underneath side right here. And on the interior here. Okay. That looks good. I'll do the same thing over here. Predominantly dark over here, but I'm going to put a little color in it. There we go. Yeah. We even throw a little bit on this side of it. Right under here. Cool. Now we're cooking. I'm going to thin that out a little more. There we go. All right. And I'll even throw some of it. I'm going to get this bluer. I'll throw it right down here along this chin. And just feather it out a little bit. There we go. All right, so we have some colors blocked in. And I'm going to go ahead, mix up maybe a little more of a blue. I'm going to switch back over to my mop. I'm going to get this ultramarine, a little bit of that green in there. Okay, have that ready. I mean, there's a number of ways you could do this. I was thinking I was going to block in some of the shadow sides here, but I think I'm going to not do that. So I just changed my mind. I think I'll go ahead and jump in and do some of the colors. I'm going to leave that blue there because it is going to be used. All right, so I'm going to mix up a little bit of this orange. It's going to be fairly thin. I'm going to mix in some of the yellow ochre. Right there. So it's very thin. And like I said, as we come across, we're going to introduce more and more of the red in around the cheek area, on the nose, and over here on the side of the face. So, and I'm really just kind of wasting time until this dries just a little bit. So it's a little damp yet, but I think I'll go ahead and we'll drop that in there. And this is going to be pretty wet, so there we go. We'll just drop it in, come down into the face. There we go, come right across. Now there is some highlights right in here. I'll keep the highlight, I'll work around the nose. There's a highlight right there on the nose. We'll try to protect it. We'll come across the face right in through here as well. Keep the moisture. The moisture is good. Throw a little bit so it's on that ear. Right down here. There's a hot spot right up in over here on the chin. And right up over here, right, I'd say it's more like a shape right like that. And right there on, yeah. Keep it a little dab up. I'm gonna throw a little bit right there. There we go. So I need to work a little faster. All right, there we go. So we have some of that nice highlight. And as that's drying, or it's still semi-wet, it's that arch paper, so it's going to stay. Oh, hello. I just made a boo-boo. Hang on, let me fix it. I may not be able to. Well. That might be something I can crop out. Hang on, I'm still working. There we go. How did I do that? That was my paper towel, wasn't it? There we go. I think I do this every demo. I get a splatter or something that I'm having to fix. So, all right. So, get my paper towel. I got a clean one now. There we go. All right. Well, I may have to work around that. All right. So what I was going to do is I'm just going to come in. I'm going to throw some color or some water in there. I'm going to do just a little lifting just for a highlight. I want to highlight right up here. And if that doesn't work, I'll switch to my other brush. And we can pick a little highlight right along the brow up there. There's a nice highlight right in here. We can lift it out right there. We can soften this. It needs to be softened a little bit, like that. Right in here, we'll soften this. We haven't even done anything on the brow or on the lips. All right, and I'm going to soften it up right here. And I'm going to throw a nice little highlight right here. And we'll soften this one up just a little bit, just a little bit. All right, so we have some nice transitions going on in there. I'm going to get some of this red right here, a little rosier color, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to block some of that in real quick. All right, let's look here. I'm going to come in right up under the hairline here. There we go. Right, like that. Cool. And we have a lot of color happening right up in this area. So I'm just going to come right across and catch it all. And pull it out right there. Comes down along this lower part of the eye right there. It's a fairly sharp transition right there. I'm going to soften that out. All right. And I'm going to throw some color from the hair strands right along there. Right, really orange right back in here. There we go. And I'm going to catch some of it right along that cheekbone. Comes right down along to the chin, right down in through here. There we go. And it's fairly distinct, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of layer that in like that. I'm going to come over now. Let me get a little more of that red. It's getting too orange. I'm going to throw a little bit of that right on the underneath side of the nose. Right in through here. Over here. And we're going to protect that little highlight right there. All right, we'll just bring it across, down around. There we go. I'm going to pull it down across the lip, get that shadow from the nose right down to the lip. Okay. And throw it right up here on this cheek, really orange right in there. Comes across. There we go. Down here to the lip. All right, we're going to throw some of it right up here. I think it's dried too much. I'll have to do a little feathering right in here. And I'll probably, when I get to the back end, I'll probably have to do a little more work with some whiteout, capture my my highlights. Soften that out right there. I'm going to put that little spot right there. And the edge right along the chin is going to be darker right there. All right, cool. And then I'm going to get some deeper red, a little hotter red, and I'm going to block in the lips. There we go. And I'll throw a little more out here. A little more right in here on that nose. I'm going to get a little more on the nose right in here. I'm going to try to work around that highlight. There we go. And I'm going to throw a little more on the bridge of the nose right up here. Still a little damp. It's still spreading. So we still have some nice transitions happening. All right. And then, how's that looking? I'm going to get a little more right up in here. Right up under the eyelid, a little more. And right up here. Right in there. All right. Now I'm going to pick just a little bit my shadow. It's coming into my highlight area, that Rembrandt angle right there. Okay. Go a little more right in through here. That cheek, nice red glow. Get a little more on that nose. And I'm going to get more right up here. And right back over here. All right, cool. Still need a little more. I want to go gonzo right here. All right, right in there like that. Just for some good contrast, I'm going to feather this just a little bit right there. All right, and then I'm going to move. I'm going to use some of this blue now. And I'm going to throw it in to the mix in various spots. Yeah. All right, and maybe just a bit right there. too. And right up here. Okay. All right. I'm going to throw just a smidge of it right down here. Right. And I'm going to go back to my reds. I'm going to throw just a bit of it in here. And that should be good. All right. Cool. All right, I'm going to let that dry for the face. And then I'm going to come in. I'm going to get some of the yellow ochres. And just a little sienna. All right. And I'm going to just streak in. I'm going to come in and look for the highlight areas of the hair. And we're just going to scrub in some of the colors in the direction of the hair strands, the locks. Okay. Make it nice and gooey. Good. We'll throw some down in here. Looking good. Throw some of it around in here. On the darker side over here, so we can have some creative license with adding that color in there. I didn't tape my paper down properly. All right, and then I'm going to come in right up here on the highlights. And we'll block that in real quick on both sides of it. All right, so we'll pull it off on down that way. And then I'll throw a little bit on this side as well. There we go. All right, cool. I'm going to come in now real quick. And I'm going to block in some of the colors on the turtleneck. And I'm going to use purple. We got all these greens, oranges, and yellows kind of happening. And I think even though she's wearing a black, I think a purple contrast would look nice right in here. So we'll just come around. Add that in. I'm going to get a little bleed, it looks like. It wasn't quite dry there. I'll have to pick. All right. So we'll just come in and block in a nice shape for that turtleneck. There we go. And we'll come around like that. There we go. And that'll dry nicely. Starting to bring and introduce in some of the contrast here. And if you want, you can throw in a different variation of it, make it a little bluer just to get a different feel for it. I'm doing a little dry brush. It's interacting nicely with that green. All right, I'm trying to distract from that. That can crop out. I'm not too worried about that. All right, so there's that. All right, so I'm going to let this dry. Everything's kind of in a kind of a fuzzy state right now. I need to let it dry, and we're going to come back in once it's dried a little bit, and I'll add in some of the saturation and structure in stage 2 and stage 3, capturing the highlights and the details, the edges, shadows, all that good stuff. So while we're waiting, please drop me a comment and give me a like and a subscribe if you like how this tutorial's going. Share this out to some friends and neighbors and relatives, anyone you know that might be interested in getting started with a creative journey, drawing and painting. Send them to the channel and we'll help them out. So we'll get started in just a second. All right, so this is dried for only a couple minutes. It's dry enough to touch and deal with. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start building a little of the structure with some darker contrasting colors in the hair, just to kind of get it going so that it's not waiting until the end. The face is still drying. I'd like it to be a little drier before I get started on it. So let's get going. I see a lot of oranges over in a lot of the edges here. So I'm going to come in with this color that I was using on the face, and I'm just going to streak some of it in all over, down in through here. There's a nice separation right in through here. All right, so, and we'll just get some of these directional marks happening. Okay. There's a nice orange glow under this side as well. So we'll throw that in there. That looks good. There's a nice glow up under here and even out here a ways. It's not very thick. It's a thin mixture. So there we go. And let me get a little more yellow in here. Okay, right up here and right in through here, there's going to be a nice, right through here and right up like in here. All right, cool. I'm going to add a little more water there. And right back on this side. I'm going to throw a nice dab of it right in through here. All right, how's that looking? Oh man, it looks like a hot mess, doesn't it? So, all right, while that's drying, I'm just going to put a little more purple right in through here. There we go. That looks good. A little more saturation never hurts. There we go. I'm just going to feather this out. I'm just being very, that's creative license right there. I'm just faking it. All right, little structure. Feather it out, nothing sharp. All right, now, so that's very wet, and I really can't do much with that. Okay. I think I could. I'm going to go ahead and get some burnt, that's probably the sepia. We'll just get a little bluer. There we go. A little more purple. So that's pretty thick. There's quite a bit in there. And I'm going to go ahead and structure up and frame out some of the work on the face. And starting with the hair. Right in here where the hair is kind of meeting the crease right here. And we'll start building some of those locks. So let's try to do it in an irregular manner. Okay. very damp there. I got to be careful. All right, so this comes out, comes down, feathers out to about right there, comes back up, meets up with this one right there. I'm just going to block it in real quick. All right. And then this one comes out, comes down around, comes down, it becomes that definition edge right along that spot right across her eye. Comes on down, comes across like that. All right, cool. And the rest of it, this kind of comes up and around, back up to the spot where the highlight is, like that. I'm just going to scrub in a little of the highlight and then switch back over to my bigger brush, grab some more of that color, and we're going to block in some of that darkness. So the contrast is really coming into play here. And again, we're trying to define and find those locks of hair. There we go. There we go. All right. And here, let me unload this brush. I'm just going to feather this a little bit. All right, maybe you can throw a little more in there. We will probably throw some of the orange in that as well. And actually, we could do that right now as we're doing it, just for more saturation and color interactions. That looks pretty good. It's coming right down across her face right in here. So yeah. All right, and I'm not going to be too terribly worried about the time frame on this one. This could take some time, so I'm not going to rush it. I am not that good to push it that much. All right, I'm going to define that jawline right there. Comes up right to that ear. Okay. Okay, we'll just throw. There we go. All right, let's get this. I got another dribble. I'm having a hell of a time. All right, so I'm going to pull this on across this way. And we'll just pull it around. All right. Yeah. All right, so big shapes first. Then we can introduce the smaller shapes. I got a nice wispy smile shape right here. Right there. And then we can come back on the back side and we can there we go. I feel some really damp stuff. That's still pretty wet. I'm not transferring much. I am a little bit. All right. And then we can come. There we go. All right, cool. That's looking good. I can see the hair locks starting to happen. We got some locks of hair, darks back in here. Good. It's hair, so I'm trying to do it with strands and strokes. We'll deal with individual hairs later. But this is really kind of a build out a structure first that we can then saturate and find all the fun stuff. All right, face feels good. I want to build out this whole back side of the head is very dark. All right, and we'll pull it out. There we go. All right, comes down right along that strand. Along the cheekbone. Along there like that. That's very dark in there. There's the ring, the earring right there. I can get it. And we'll come right up along. That little strand comes right across, right in here like that. All right, we'll deal with that. All right, a little bigger brush, a little more water. Okay, there we go. And a little more color even. That's working. All right, now let's go back to my little brush and we'll come right up along this cheekbone. Cheekbone's coming right up here, comes out around, back in towards the eye, and then we lose it in the darkness. All right, back to my bigger brush. On the back side of the highlight, there we go. And we're just going to drop in some colors. I'll grab some of that orange too. There we go. There we go. That's looking good. And I'm going to throw a little more of it right along here too. Here. All right, so the contrast is really starting to happen. There we go. I'm losing edges, and that's good. I'm liking that color interactions happening right there. I want to get some of that to start to happening on this strand back here. Yeah. Get some of the darkers going, get some of the darker stuff happening here. And then we'll drop in more orange. Pop it with the orange. Catch a few highlights. Just hit a wet spot. Drop it up here as well. Come on, orange. You're getting brown on me. We will be using some whiteout. I'll need to catch some of those highlights and strengthen them up a little bit. Okay, we'll throw that in here. Throw some of that orange out there. Want to knock that back a little bit. That strand of hair is coming across right in through here. Cool. That needs to be knocked down more. So is the ring. And even, I'm going to get a little darker right in there. Get a little more orange, a little more red. And we're going to hit that a little better. There we go. I'll do the same thing right up here. Good. Feather it out a little bit. There we go. Feather it out a little more. Good. All right. That's looking better. I've got some strands. I'm going to soften that strand just a little bit. All right. All right, now all right, so do that. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. It is a little fiber there. I don't know what that's from. More red. All right, we are starting to build some structure. There we go. Get a little more of it coming down on this cheek right there. And then it follows right down like that. That's looking good. And right along that chin, right under here. A little more on her lip. That's looking good. More on this side of the lip. Good. Come over here. And we're going to get some of those strands. Soften this up. Pull it up a little this way. Good. It's really red right back here. Soften that up. Good. I'm going to throw just a little smidge of purple into it as well. Need it right in through here. And right on the back side of this nostril. And I'm going to bring it right across the nose, right there, right there. Tighten up that nostril right there, a little darker right there. All right, and I'm going to get a little more of that purple now. And we're going to do that eye real quick. Hopefully I can get it to the same freaking size as the other one. If I have any troubles, it's with the eyes. Yep, Okay. It's so wet, I can't do much on the outside with that upper eyelid. All right. It's really dark back there, so comes right across that way. All right, cool. How's it looking? I think stage 2 is going pretty well. I'll be able to really come in and start building some contrast and detail here pretty soon. All right, it's going to be darker right through here. And right up here, right along that bulb of her nose, right there, and down around. And right on the lower portion of her nose, right there. And I'm going to get some of this reddish, darkish red, purpley red. I'm going to hit that little spot right there. And I'm going to thin that out very much. I'm going to throw a little bit of it right there. All right. And I'll throw a little more of it right up against that eye. This eye has more of a bulge. And we'll come across that way. There we go. All right. And I'm going to saturate with this redder red, that purpley red. I'm going to throw a little more of that right in through here. And right on the underneath of her nose, right on that side. And I'm going to pull it across right there on her lip. Try to protect that little highlight right there. All right, so let me feather that just a little bit. Cool. All right, well, it's looking pretty good. It looks all right on screen. Everybody's going freaking out about that, I'm sure. I can always fix that, but I don't think I need to. If I crop it, I'm going to crop it right there. So I think it's not going to be a problem in the final presentation of the artwork. All right, so I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes, and then we're going to come in and we'll start doing the structure work, the detail work, and highlights, shadows, edges, all those sharp contrasting things, and it should be done. All right, well, we're going to push into stage 3 and really see what we can do with it. Working with my number 1 brush, and I also have my dagger here so I can pull some nice hair strands and stuff like that. So I'm going to mix up some thick colors here. So ultramarine and that sepia color. That'll be my absolute darkest thing. If I need to, I can always pop a little Payne's gray into it, but it's a good cream state at this point. So I'm going to come in, work on the nose, work on the mouth and the eyes, and see if we can pull those things together and get them to function the way they're supposed to. This eye needs to be a little higher on the round, coming down around, and we'll get that shape down here. There we go. This eye looks pretty good. And again, I'll be painting in the eyebrows or the eyelashes as well. And there we go. So, how's that look? That doesn't look too bad. I'm going to pull it on out here a little bit. I'm going to need a little higher. There we go. And we'll get that back shape right there. All right, and then this one's kind of pulling down right at the corner as well. All right, so And I'm going to go ahead and get darker reddish purple. And I keep hitting my paper. I'm going to get this upper eyelid contrast right there. There we go. Same drill over here. Bring it up high, pull it down right along in there. And a little bit of it down here. All right, and then we do have this kind of a broken edge. It's the eyelashes on this underneath portion of the eye right there. And we have the same thing right here. It's off the edge a little bit. It's on the edge on the left, but it's just kind of just little faint little colors right there. We get a darker, and we'll do the upper eyelashes. We'll see if this, there we go. We'll just do some irregular shapes. There we go. That doesn't look too bad. We'll do it here as well. There we go. All right, so that doesn't look too bad. I want to get a little more of a brown, but still dark. I'm going to paint in, I'm going to work on those eyelashes, or the eyebrows. Okay, so it's a definite shape like that. Comes all the way up and around like that. All right, now the trick is to get this other one to match it. Okay. There we go. Pull it over. Good. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and streak some more color right in through there. Hides that little boo-boo I made. And we can pull some of that down through here. Let me get my dagger. All right. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right. All right, so let me go back and let me work on the nose. And come in here. I'm going to get the top edge of it and that edge right there. Right like that. And I'm going to get that shadow line right there. And it's very faint. There's a very faint one right down there. It's not very big. Right like that. Cool. Okay. And let's get this lip right there. Comes down. Up, around, down, up, again, around, down. And then this one works up like that. There we go. All right, I'm just going to soften that up. Right, like right in there. There we go. All right, so that's cool. I'm going to get some blues. I'm going to get some phthalo blue right here. Just a smidge of green. All right, I'm going to drop it in on the eye. Right there. That helped. All right, cool. Back to my darker colors. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to start working in structure and definition. There we go. Come over here and do it on this side. Cool. Yeah, that's starting to look good. Now, in a second, if I can get this to dry in a couple of spots, I need to come in and just do a little erasing of the blue line. All right, let's come up here. Okay. All right, let's get this. There we go. So the contrast, it's doing a lot already. You can really see the, and I'm doing a lot of suggested details. So you don't have to be terribly precise. And at this stage, you can really start seeing once you get that kind of information added in, you're going to start color, a little more density to it. And I can see that in several spots already. And I'm going to use some ultramarine right in there with that orange. And I just need to get a little denser shadow in through here. Not that thick. It looks pretty drastic as I'm adding it on, but it's really not that thick. It's going to dry lighter. I need some of it right up in here, and right under the nose. And I'm going to thin it out a lot. I'm going to throw it right in through here. Right there. Get a little more on that spot right there. Good. All right. And where else? Anything else? Actually, I'm going to get more red. Okay. Put a little more of it right in through here. And right in through here. Right along there. And right there. All right. Throw a bit of it up here as well. Right in that highlight area. Okay. And that's looking good. Throw a bit of it right down here. All right, I'm going to intensify the red on her lips a little more. So let's get a little more of that right there. That is red. And right there. And right in through here. Back to my darker darks. I'm going to intensify that right there. Throw a little more of that right there and over here. paint on it. Okay, still needs to be a little darker right in through here. Right up in here. All right, cool. And like I said, you can really start seeing where you can start adding in more and more of the saturation. Right in through here. I could use a little more red right in through here. Feather it out a little bit. Throw a little more right in through here. Right up in here. Right back down in here a little more. There we go. And right down here along this edge. Right there. And then I'm going to feather it. There we go. A little more on her nose. All right, cool. All right, and now we're going to pop in some highlights and see where this goes. I'm going to pop a few more highlights right in here. Throw one right here too. All right, we got a highlight on her chin. Throw one right down here. Okay. Right down here like that, right there. Okay. And all right, now we're going to do some streaking on the hairs. Hopefully we can get it. Okay. Okay, there's one up here. All right, and we'll just come in here and we'll catch the hottest highlights. All right, we're going to catch this one right there. Yeah, that's starting to work. I want to get some of my purple. Make it thin. All right, cool. And I'm just going to come in. I'm going to just do a little dry brush in that purple side of in the green area. Just to break that up a little bit. And I can even see it where it would be a nice benefit. A little more of it in through some of the, and I'm going to get the black stuff again. Let's get darker, get some blue in it. All right, there we go. It's this spot right here. There we go. Perfect. All right. I'm going to erase some of the pencil marks that are kind of confusing some of the spaces. So if it's dry enough, you don't want to do this when the paper is wet. It will screw all sorts of things up. But amazingly, that blue line lifts underneath the paint. So if it looks a little dirty because of your drawing, you can just come over, grab a kneaded eraser, and just erase it out. All right, there we go. Hey, I hope this little demo was helpful on how to paint a pretty girl's face in watercolor. If it was, please give me a like and a subscribe. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.